listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is episode 211 of the Awards Watch Podcast. I'm the executive editor, Ryan McQuade. Joining me today is Dan Bayer.
Hello, everybody.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. We fired everybody else.
Just the two of us.
Oh, wow. Dan's going to serenade me today. Yeah, Eric's in LA. Sophia's under the weather. And everybody else is busy shopping for my Christmas gift. I'm going to just assume.
Sure. Yeah, that.
You know, maybe. Or spending time with their loved ones. Or whatever you do during the holiday. 'Tis the season to not be on the podcast. Today, we're going to just briefly talk. There's a couple big films that came out this past weekend. Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Poor Things. And Hayao Miyazaki's, at least, I guess it was both versions, but the dub version also came out as well, of The Boy and the Heron. And then we're going to talk, Dan and I, about the acting categories. Time of recording this is on Sunday the 10th, where this episode will release after we know the Golden Globes. So if any of the acting conversation changes within this time period, know that you'll just hear about that next week when we talk about the Golden Globes and the reactions to that, and just get over it. Like, it's fine. Like, you know, we're a little bit in the past while, you know, this show's released in the future. So if anyone starts yelling and screaming about, well, the Globes, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know what the Globes were at the time. And we can only assume at this point, right, Dan?
We are not psychic, so yes.
I mean, if we were psychics, then I would just put out my Oscar predictions now.
Yeah,
and then I'd sit back and not have to worry about any of this anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
unless all your winnings on the most long shot nominees and winners.
Well, unless I'm Josh, and he clearly knows.
He just has his finger on the pulse.
He's got his finger on it right now. He tweeted out this week that he thinks Lily's going to take it all the way.
Well, an interesting thing happened after he tweeted that. That could throw a wrench into those plans.
Oh, what was that? Did I not see that, or was it something different, or was it what happened today? Oh yeah, but you know those silly,
wacky Los Angelinos.
You know, remember a couple of years ago when they couldn't pick one movie, they picked 5 movies to win Best Picture. So
yes, they're all 5 movies or won Best Picture, but only one of them had music.
True. It's yes, LAFCA, the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, they announced
they're
today.
Special.
The Boston Film Critics Association,
the
Washington
awesome.
DC Critics Association. There's a ton of critics associations that came out, so we'll talk about those here in a little bit. Let's talk about Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos's feminist Frankenstein vehicle starring the great Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Rami Youssef. Who else is in this thing? Gerard Carmichael, Catherine Hunter.
Christopher Abbott, Margaret Qualley, Little Sanctuary reunion. Great.
Even though they don't share really a scene until the end together.
Oh, they kind of, I like it at the end, and that scene is great.
It is. It's the movie that it premiered at the Telluride Film. Well, no, at the Venice Film Festival.
Yep.
And then it went over to the Telluride Film Festival, and that's how I saw it. Dan, you saw it at NIF for the first time, I believe, and then we've all kind of rewatched it this past week. Audiences have been able to see it. It's had a really good screen per average, just in the New York area, I believe, at this point. It'll go wide within the next couple of weeks. But it did really well at LAFCA. It did really well, and has been doing really well in terms of with the critics groups with nominations or wins already. So it's definitely one of the films of the year to be keeping an eye on in terms of multiple nominations. It's a big spectacle, follow up to The Favorite for Lanthimos, for Tony McNamara, the screenwriter, and then also for Emma Stone, who is one of the 3 actresses in The Favorite. So, Dan, just kind of give us some brief thoughts, what you thought about it. And I mean, I think you've rewatched it a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. So, has it gotten better for you? Has it gotten worse, maybe?
Yeah, so I've rewatched it once, and then I'm going again. Okay. I'm taking a friend to see it Tuesday. Okay. and this is my second favorite film of the year.
Oh.
I absolutely adore it. It is the thing is that like Yorgos Lanthimos is maybe my favorite living filmmaker right now. There is just something in his sensibilities that is very aligned with my own in terms of his sense of humor and his style. And so I really vibe with all of his movies in general. And this one just blew me away. The technical aspects of this movie, the production design, the cinematography, the sound, the score,
Mm,
those those costumes, the hair and makeup, everything is just so ridiculously detailed
mm,
and impressive. It it creates this world, this fantasy, almost fairy tale world. I call it this, like demented fairy tale, a deranged fairy tale vision. And that's what it feels like. It's this deranged, screwed, fucked up little fairy tale about a young woman learning what it's like to be an adult woman.
yeah.
And I love how off kilter it is. I love how all the performances are just off on their own little wacky wavelength, but still all feel like they're part of a whole. Um, Mark Ruffalo has never been funnier. I am obsessed with his performance. I'm obsessed with Emma Stone's performance. I'm obsessed with Catherine Hunter's
Mm,
performance.
she's incredible.
I am just so happy that Yorgos and Catherine Hunter found each other.
Yeah.
That they are a match made in heaven. I hope she's in every single one of his movies going forward. And honestly, like I hope the collaboration between Yorgos and Tony and Emma just keeps going for as long as they want it to. There was something special there in The Favorite, and I think that everything that was special about that movie, and especially Emma's role in it, has been taken to a whole other level with Poor Things. I love it. It's, I think, technically immaculate. Um, and it's one of the most surprising, uh, amazingly bizarre, wickedly entertaining things that I've seen this whole year.
Yeah, I think it's a really good movie. It lessened a little bit for me, I think, on the second viewing, by like a half star, not like a full like, like, oh, this movie's terrible or anything. I think that for me, the ride was a little. It's a long movie. It's about like 2.5 hours long,
Yeah.
and the middle section, I think in Lisbon goes a little bit long, on the boat, and that kind of derails the sequence, the Ruffalo and casino bits that we see before, and then when we are in Marseille and we're in Paris, and the Catherine Hunter, the brothel scenes, those are really really good. And that section a little bit in the middle, it's a little muddled, um, and it kind of slows down this really really quick paced film that I really liked, and I really think that I saw more of the fisheye lens the second go around, and I love Yorgos a lot, and I think his movies have really interesting ideas. But I always think as like a director, sometimes it's like it's okay maybe just to like maybe one or two fisheyes. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't have to do that like every other 10 minutes or
I
something like that.
I
Yorgos
took
like cut it
when
back a
I
little bit. You know?
when I took notes during my NIF screening, I think
Did you like tally it?
maybe my third note is geez with the fisheye
Yeah,
lenses.
you just got to stop. Like
There's a
it's
lot in the first like 10 minutes or so.
yeah,
Like
it's a lot.
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I think also, um, and those are my like really my complaints, because I think, yeah, McNamara is the revelation for Lanthimos, because when you saw it with The Favorite, and he co-wrote that screenplay, it gave then I think Lanthimos the ability to focus on other things and not necessarily also have to write about the box and sort of maybe have to box himself in. Because I think, for some people, not necessarily myself, but for some people, that was the problem that they had with Killing of a Sacred Deer, or the screenplay of The Lobster is so fantastic, and then yet some of the directorial decisions aren't nearly as crisp as something here, and I think that while I don't like an endless amount of fish islands, I do think his direction has become stronger and more confident, and it has a lot to do with Tony McNamara. But I think the favorite is a lot of that script and those three actresses, and then Yorgos Lanthimos. This movie is a three-headed monster of Lanthimos, McNamara, but really the shining star of this is the producer and the actress who plays Bella Baxter, which is Emma Stone. I think it's an all-encompassing sort of performance, and it provides her great comedic talents as well as her emotional and raw vulnerability. Obviously, yes, everyone wants to talk about the physicality that she brings,
Incredible.
and you could look to the sex scenes. I don't even think it's about that. I think it's the way she walks. I think it's the way she talks. I think there's the dancing
the way
sequences.
she dances.
I think it's the way in which you see her evolution over the course of the film. I think that it's really strong. I don't know if all the ideas work, but I commend all of them still being used and thrown up there. Yeah. The first time I watched it, I was with you, Dan. I was really blown away by Ruffalo, who's been this really fascinating actor who I think is the definition of an actor who has been able to have his cake and eat it too. He's been able to be the Hulk and in all these Marvel films, but then he's been able to be Oscar nominated for things like Spotlight and The Kids Are All Right, and be able to go back and forth within these really great dramas, as well. I think of even a film that I really, really love, like Dark Waters, with from Todd Haynes. Like Dark Waters is tremendous performance. Here, it's like out of a carnival ride. He's sprung out of a cannon. It's
so fun.
It's a little bit not as surprising the second go around for me. It's still a lot of fun, but the one that I really connected with more the second go around was Willem Dafoe as Godwin God Baxter, her creator, especially in the second half of the film when she's on her adventures and he's really deteriorating. And I think it's really interesting that, a movie that it reminded me a lot of was how Del Toro used Geppetto last year in Pinocchio and showed a different side of that relationship dynamic. And I think that McNamara, Stone, and Lanthimos used Godwin Baxter as we always see the creator of the monster have this very scared and also intimate connection with its creature. This is that of a father and a daughter, and that of a longing and a missing, and yet of an honesty that is in mutual respect between one another by the end. I think it's really, really beautiful work by Dafoe. Maybe some of the best work he's done. And he's been doing a hell of a lot of great work over the last, especially the last 5 or 6 years. But I think it's really, really special stuff. Production design, very costumes, the world that this movie has built, the color palette, it's astonishing. Like you feel like you're watching actual sets. It's such a great year for production design between this and Oppenheimer and Barbie and Killers of the Flower Moon and Saltburn and Maestro and so many other films this year that have just been able to create these spaces for these characters to live in. But this one feels like you're creating an entire world, and a world that is being not only presented to the audience by the filmmaker, but a world in which is what Bella sees the world.
Yes.
And I think that lived in is so fascinating. There's so many twists and turns. Listen to Stone this week talk about being almost getting lost on the set as well. it's a really
They
fascinating.
literally built like a whole city there. Like
They
on
did.
this, it's literally continuous. Like they built a whole city that they could film in. It wasn't just like the areas where they were shown. They were all connected. It's incredible the amount of work that went into this film. Mind blowing.
Yeah, and I just I know again everybody wants to bring up the the section film conversations. I think that's like the 9,000th thing I would want to talk about this movie.
Yeah.
This movie is so much more detailed and layered.
People just need to get over
over that.
sex.
I think that
They
yes,
do.
they really do
Like,
because, but within the sex, I think that there's a lot of, um, I think there's a lot of interesting power dynamics. I think there's a lot of especially the brothel, the idea of ownership over one's body, over one's choices, the idea of that in this profession of property. I think that there's actually a real interesting kind of dynamic that Bella forms with her customers that I think that not a lot of people are talking about in terms of. One of them is like a scene where she's talking about, she's using it as a form of instruction for these two boys.
Yeah,
like
I was just thinking of
it's actually like, oh, you're like, wow, that's like I it's different forms and there's different complexities to it. But then I think that the relationship dynamics are really interesting. Talking about how Max McCandless, played by Rami Youssef, is this sort of safe, picked choice by society, by her father. She rebels and goes out with Duncan, and realizes that that's a mistake. And then ultimately, by the end, it's really about, it's not about relationships and it's not about and everything. It's just it's making sure that yourself is comfortable within the body that you have. And
it's about your own autonomy.
I think it's also really interesting about, the concept of the film is that her character originally commits suicide. Godwin essentially takes the baby's brain out of the baby that she's going to have and puts it in hers. Runs an experiment of how and how that interesting dynamic of she is both mother and child in that moment too, and how women always feel like that from and really the for me at least, it's when
literally she's the mother and the whore.
She is well, she's both the child, but then the child grows up to be exactly in the shoes of what her mother has gone through. It's generational what a lot of women have to face in this world, and it's a sad reality. But what if you were strong enough, and what if you were brave enough, and what if you were bold enough to be able to flip those norms and then create your own story, be able to tell it in a way in which you were confident, be able to also, during this time, to use knowledge as your advantage. She's reading, she's fascinated as a surgeon. She says, "I'm the most comfortable I am is when she's in surgery," much like after her father, a family profession, things that are probably not allowed in that time.
The ability to take all the information that you're getting from all these different people with all their own different agendas, that are surrounding her, and then she says, "No, this is where I fall in this belief spectrum, and this is what I believe is important, and this is what I'm gonna do."
Yeah.
And it's not about making your own decisions based on the evidence that you've received. And I think that today, I think that message should really resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great film. I think it deserves all of its flowers that it's been getting.
Big time.
It's gonna be really hard to find a place for this on my top 20 of the year. There's just been so many great films, I think, this year, and
a lot of great films. Yeah.
I'm trying to do a lot of rewatches for the first time since festival season, and it moved down a little bit, but it's still a really, really good film, and I think it might be my favorite performance from Emma Stone, easily. But in a year also that has so many extraordinary performances from actresses, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah. So many extraordinary performances, period. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, across the board. This is the first year in a long time where I've been like, I think I actually like all the performances that are up for Best Actor that could potentially get nominated.
yeah.
Like, that's wild. That never
There's
happens.
never there's never somebody looking out there for Ahab and talking about Melville or something. You know what I mean? No, just kidding. Um, um, the other film that came out, The Boy and the Heron. Dan, I know you haven't seen it yet.
No,
Shame on you.
I know.
But I'm just going to briefly talk about it. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I know where that is. That is definitely going to be a top fiver. It's just, what do you want from Hayao Miyazaki than another just beautiful, I think far more complicated film than anything he's given us in quite some time. It's not as easy to kind of put together. I think you need a couple go rounds,
I mean,
but
this is his first film in how many years since The Wind
I
Rises?
think The Wind Rises was
Like
2013, 14.
13, 14? Yeah, so I was gonna say it's
Yeah.
been about a
It's
decade.
been about a decade. There's speculation about whether this is the last film or if he has maybe some more in him, which,
Yeah.
you
Well, because
know,
he had said that The Wind Rises was his last
yeah. And
one.
then,
And now,
well, I
maybe
think,
him and Steven Soderbergh should start a club for retired filmmakers who still make films.
I think so. I think Soderbergh's been knocking him out of the
I know.
park. He's been making soda pop the last couple of years, and they've been really
For
good.
someone who is retired, he has been making a lot of movies.
Yeah, like High Flying Bird, Kimmy. He's been making some good stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not that solo laundromat, but still, we can't hold
They
everything
can't
against
all
them.
be
They can't all be
winners.
winners. But in the case of Miyazaki, I think most of his films are bangers, winners, however you want to call them. And this is another one. I think it's absolutely exquisite, and I think it's, for me, a movie definitely about legacy, a movie definitely about. He's stated that it's a movie that he made for his grandchild so that he can remember him. And I don't know if that just doesn't want to just break your soul. But I think it's exquisitely beautiful at every turn. It's got one of the best scores of the year. I know that the movie has a dubbed version with like Robert Pattinson and was speaking of poor things, Willem Dafoe and Florence Pugh and Christian Bale and Dave Bautista, all these actors that are a part of it. But and I've yet to see that version. I've heard the transfer is actually pretty good.
I've heard that as well.
And but overall, it's really just this movie about family and legacy and what you've built and what you're going to build and forgiveness and love and creation and it's almost very like Malick-esque at times. Like it's closer to kind of a Spirited Away but I think less singularly focused as that movie is. I think it's in its meandering or its vast ideas that it's throwing out there. It's really got a lot of exquisite things to say. And I'm not going to confirm or deny if I've cried like a baby both times that I watched it. When I saw it at TIFF for the premiere, even the Ghibli logo got me. So I'm like really in the wheelhouse to get
so you could
kind of
say you're
smack.
an easy mark for this.
I'm an easy mark, but I'm also but also when I rewatched it, I was like, oh no, this is extremely beautiful. And I actually think that this should be his last movie because I think he's ending on a really fascinating, beautiful note, if that would be the case. Much more than like The Wind Rises, which is a very straightforward film and isn't pushing nearly for me the boundaries as I think a movie like this does. And it's also to this really like culmination of a lot of other technical ideas that he's done in the past. And so, I'd really recommend everybody go see it. One of my favorites of the year. I know a lot of the writers that have seen it on the staff have really enjoyed it. And if
Well,
you have
hearing
seen,
you speak about it so eloquently and passionately um, does make me want to see it a lot more.
you gotta see it, Dan. It's good. Good movies. Movies are good.
Movies are
And
good.
and the other thing is not to pressure Dan, but animated movies matter, and we really should go and
Yes, they do.
we really should go champion them, especially championed by the greatest director of animated features of all time, um, in Hayao Miyazaki. That's who I think. Like if Del Toro and some Brad Bird and so many other directors,
Wes
they
Anderson.
Wes Anderson even too. Well, I was talking mostly, and well, yeah, I guess Wes Anderson's done some animated films and stop
Claymation
motion
is
films.
animation.
Yes,
Stop
that
motion
is.
is animation.
It is. They refer back to him all the time. So if you love those movies, you really should go see The Boy and the Heron in theaters, and then when you're done with that, go watch his other movies because his other movies are masterpieces. And yeah, that's what's going on in theaters. Also, too, made a really big chunk of change at the domestic box office, like $12.5 million, which is great. I think it was the number one film at the box
It was
office.
the number one film this week, which is, I think, unprecedented for Studio Ghibli in America.
It's not just, and for his, I don't know if he's had a number one film at the box office in a long, if he has, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the state of the box office right now, but then it's also the power of people wanting to go see Miyazaki at the same time. He's very revered.
I mean, this is coming, what, 1 week, 2 weeks after Wish was a massive flop?
Tell me what Wish is about.
I couldn't tell you. It's about a wish.
And you've seen it?
No.
Okay, good. I was like,
she makes a wish on a star. That's what it's about. That's all.
Sure. It's the laziest way to celebrate 100 years if I've ever seen it. Yeah.
My God.
But there's sincerity behind the creation of this movie, and there's also curiosity. Also, too, I think it helps to have that voice cast for some people as well, too. You don't have to go both ways. And you could see it with subtitles, or you can just go see the dub version. Which those dub versions that they have for this, I've again heard really good things, and they try to do a really good job with these. I know Disney curated the ones in the past, but I think Studio Ghibli's the one in control of it now. So yeah, good movie. Go see it. It's been winning a ton of critics prizes already.
Yeah,
which is great.
I've had it as my predicted winner for Best Animated Feature for a while now, and winning all these critics prizes and doing as well as it did at the box office, I'm feeling very good about that right now.
I still got Spider-Verse in my spot right now because this is the one where I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get to the point where
well, Ryan,
Miyazaki could get another Oscar and or could director.
Don't tend to win.
No, I know they don't.
Feature
I know, but everybody loves this movie so much.
But they also love this movie so much.
I know they do. I know.
When you got the option.
I know. See, I can't put this is the problem too, is I have so many favorite films in the race this year, and I've gone kind of all in already on last week when I was talking about Oppenheimer and everything, and everybody knows that that's my movie this year. And so then to have another one of my movies like The Boy and the Heron, people are like, oh, let's try to get it into Best Picture. Oh, let's try to get it this Oscar. I'm like, okay, I can't have that lucky of a year. The scale balances out, right? I've played this game long enough.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Oscars, let's talk some Oscar predictions, maybe some Oscar conversation. Doesn't have to be like a list or things, I really want to give a shout out to Eric and Sophia and Kevin last week. Thought it was a really good Best Picture kind of conversation about everything that we had, and I kind of want to just kind of continue that over to this week and talk, Dan, about these acting categories, which, I mean, you mentioned it already. They feel so stacked, but they're also filled with so many great performances. A lot of performances that I really like, and I don't think that there's a ton that um maybe there's a couple that I don't like overall, but like I can't complain if they get in because there's like a whole pool full of just wonderful performances that that could make up it if those don't get in. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about supporting actress, supporting actor, best actor, and then we'll wrap up with everyone's favorite best actress. So you know, we'll just have the men sandwiched in the middle. And beat the, you know, I love the bread of a sandwich more than the meat inside sometimes. But so let's start with supporting actress.
Got it.
I feel like, and maybe this is me, but I know that this is such a wild category, and it was so wild last year that a bad winner came out of it, and in Jamie Lee Curtis. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen this year. But it seems like
Mouth.
it seems like from the critics groups, there's a consensus already forming
Yes.
around Divine Joy Randolph, and then there's also a lot of noise and buzz for Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple.
I will be leading that train.
So I kind of just curious how you're seeing. I mean, and then there's kind of three other spots that are open for anyone. So I'm kind of curious how you're seeing supporting actress sort of unfold as we're starting to really get into the thick of it.
So yeah, I have currently Danielle and Divine in my two top spots right now. Currently, I have having seen The Color Purple, I have Danielle Brooks is my predicted winner. I think that is one of those things where that is a very big, broad, crowd pleasing performance that will just play better for the industry than the more subtle work of Divine Joy Randolph. I love them both, and I think I could see both of them. I could see either of them winning, and I'd be happy. But that's sort of, I think that the critics may side with Divine, but I think that once we switch over to the industry and the more televised awards, I think that we will see it potentially see a shift to Danielle Brooks. Because that's just a more audience friendly performance. I think Taraji P. Henson is in the running also for The Color Purple. But I have her outside. I have her just missing right now. I also think Emily Blunt is going to absolutely be riding Oppenheimer's coattails to a nomination. I think it's the fact that she doesn't already have a nomination for the work that she's done throughout her career is insane to me. It's insane that she doesn't have even one nomination to her credit, and this should be her first. And if it's not, then like someone someone in Hollywood has it out for her. I don't know.
It would be
Nothing else
called.
would make sense.
It would be SAG and the voting members.
Hey, they gave her for The Quiet Place. They gave her two in the
Yeah,
same year.
but
Like,
I mean, like,
come on.
you know, they're just like, here, take it, go away. You know what I mean? Like, you know, no, she's not gotten it, and this is her. But this is, I would say, this is the best chance she's ever had because she's part of a film that will be in the Best Picture conversation for the rest of the season, and she's been at the Q&As and everything already. So
she's so charming at the Q&As, and she has a great Oscar clip.
She does.
That gets everyone in the audience on her side, and
well, maybe not everybody. I know Eric's not a big fan of it, but definitely.
Well, I'll say, like, I'm not a big fan of the way that moment is done in the script either. But you love her.
Yeah,
you love her in that moment.
People love that
what
performance.
You need to get this kind of nomination. Yeah. There are two things that I'm sort of toying with in this category right now.
Interesting.
One of which is that I wonder about Juliette Binoche for The Taste of Things.
Yeah,
because she is an Oscar winner. And she is a star, which if you're going to be nominated for a foreign language performance, it really helps if you're a big star that the Academy already likes. and they do. She has 2 nominations and a win to her credit. And the other is that, like, I think that The Taste of Things is a movie that is a little difficult to sell people on to get them to see it. But when they see it, they tend to really like it. And like, as you've seen today, like, Boston Society of Film Critics surprisingly gave it best editing, cinematography. It was mentioned in these places at LAFCA and Boston, and that's big for this movie. So people are seeing it and they're liking it, and in a field that is as spread out as this, I wonder if she could potentially slip in on over someone like Julianne Moore, who is in a very buzzy movie, May December, but her co-stars are kind of stealing a lot of her own buzz. Whereas Juliette Binoche is sort of like the thing that everyone wants to talk about in that movie. It's the performance that you're most drawn to, and she's great in it.
She's also kind of like a little bit of a co-lead, maybe, if she gets a lot of moments to herself, and she's got scenes, and and she's ultimately like the heart of the movie.
She is absolutely.
And so if you like that movie, you're definitely you're definitely gonna love her in it. Yeah, I think she's exquisite in the movie, and I think that movie is
that is a sleeper. Like,
that movie's just,
watch out for that movie.
The movie's like a sleeper in like director, because it's going to be France's international play. Like, if people watch it, it could get a strong contention. I mean, obviously, LAFCA today went for Zone of Interest as their best film. They went really all in for Zone of Interest, and Zone of Interest needed something like that. So
yes, and I'm so happy.
Those two films will be fighting it out for that international representation by the Directors Guild. And both of them are really wonderful directorial showcases with extraordinary dual performances from their leads. So.
And if we're talking about the Directors Guild, they're still going to be considering Justine Triet, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean that's
another one with two great performances to back up its credit.
Was there somebody else? You said that there was another one?
The other thing that I'm toying with is that, like, someone on Twitter put this into, I saw a random comment on Twitter about this, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, that's actually a really good point. Because LAFCA decided to give Lily Gladstone their runner-up for Best Supporting Actress, or supporting performance. And, if you look at the screen time for that movie, she has, I think, somewhere around a third of the movie is screen time for her, and the argument that was made was like, could she be this year's Lakeith Stanfield?
Oh, okay.
Where we think they're getting in one category and they actually get into, or they've been campaigned all season in one category and end up getting nominated in the other category.
Yeah.
I personally think that the genie of her going lead can't be put back in the bottle at this point.
I think Michelle Williams is the exact kind of comp for this as well. And
there's that too, yeah.
Last year we went through this, and there were even up until the nominations, everyone's like, oh, well, she could still go in supporting. Even top tier predictors picked her to go into supporting rather than the lead.
Last year, all of the critics fell in line and mentioned her in the lead category.
And everyone except LAFCA has fallen in line with Lily so far as lead.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And that's the thing where I was like, and even though she didn't win at the Gothams specifically for Killers,
she's still
let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be honest. Let's talk about the politics of that.
Like it was for Killers of the Flower Moon ultimately. Let's just be honest. So, but like the fact that LAFCA is LAFCA and there's such a big voice, I feel like that is them sort of putting their finger on the dial a bit and saying, y'all, we think that this is really where the performance belongs. And since most Hollywood people are in LA and the surrounding area,
I
I
get it.
wonder how many of them will listen.
I wonder too, but I think that we'd have to see it to believe it. I think at this point,
Yes,
I think
yes.
you have to just. I think Lakeith Stanfield might just end up becoming. I know everybody always wants to look for it, but I think that just becomes an anomaly until it is proven again
The
otherwise.
exception that proves the rule.
I mean, it was in a COVID year, for Christ's sake. I mean, that turnout, that voting turnout, the nomination turnout was so wild and so also altered by not having the full membership voting as much as it is now. I don't think that that'll happen, but it is a theory to kind of put out there. And yes, Lafka be Lafka. They're also a bunch of weird people in
I
that
mean,
group that aren't like
yeah.
that. I'm like not going to take a grain of salt. I mean, like it was weird for them to have Oppenheimer as the runner-up film when it was not a runner-up or winner in any other category
Not
throughout
a
the day.
single other mention.
So it was also like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like it seemed very weird and showed that maybe New York just has it right more. I mean, they are a kooky group. I go back to Small Axe. That is as kooky and non-decisive a thing that you could do. They're not always. They're always maybe wanting to also stand out in terms of news for their picks as well. And I think that that's where this lies. But I mean, it is something to look out for. But I don't think we should take too much stock into that. I do agree with you though about Randolph and Brooks being at the top. I think that those are the two that are, as of right now, duking it out for the Oscar. I have Randolph one because I think The Holdover is just going to be a stronger film than The Color Purple when it's all said and done. And Brooks's performance, we haven't talked about The Color Purple yet, and really can't talk about it too much. Let's just say it wasn't, as Spike Lee would say, my cup of tea, as opposed to Taraji P. Henson's performance, which is a little bit more my cup of tea. The performances in those movies in general are dialed all the way up to 11, and we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks overall. Because I have thoughts on this movie. We have had, but I will say it's done really well in its screening so far, and it's done really well in terms of just internet reactions and people at the guild screenings and stuff. But Randolph's performance has really, I think, struck with a lot of people and stuck with them. And it's a very moving performance. It's a very funny performance. And it's also, both Brooks and her are at this moment where they're both they're not newcomers to us, Dan, but it feels like to a lot of people in the industry, they are newcomers. And so this is a place where they've truly get to shine. I mean, like Dolomite should have been that already, but that's we don't need to talk about it. But Randolph's performance is extraordinary. Blunt, totally agree with you. I like Blunt's performance. I've seen Oppenheimer 5 times, and it's gotten better. It's the one that's gotten better for me each time. And there's a lot of things within the writing, and there's subtle things that she does that make it worth it, I think, at the end for that turn. I think it's totally a coattail nomination, and she'll finally get one. That's about it. I think that you mentioned Julianne Moore. May December has done good so far. Portman and her, though, I worry about them because they're not really the pushes for the film right now. It seems like Sammy Birch's screenplay and Charles Melton are the real main focus of that. So the tide has to turn, and also has to turn on the fact that those two are getting the attention, but it would then make the SAG and the Academy and everybody have to focus in on, this is kind of inspired by a true life event. It's very transformative performance for for more. She's also kind of playing the villain in a lot of ways in this movie
Yeah,
too.
very
She's got that
sneakily.
lisp that we all love.
Oh,
There's so much about it. It's such a great performance, and also I will say this: is like this is a year where a lot of their favorites, the Oscars favorites, are a part of films again this year. And over the last couple of years, wasn't necessarily the case. And so when they come back to like having their chance to also have these newcomers, but then also you have to remember, like they love their favorites. They love coming back to these comfortable people that have been there and proved it to them before.
Look, I know buzz in this movie has become non-existent, but Jodie Foster is getting an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
She is getting an Oscar nomination. It's happening.
She's crushing Diet Can lids, and she is pushing her to the finish line in that movie. She's ripped. She's got True Detective coming out too. Like it's almost like you could write it yourself, that nomination. And also too, just a couple of years ago, she had kind of a little bit of a campaign. She won a Globe for the Mauritanium. Like it's like laying the breadcrumbs for this moment right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And we'll talk about actress with betting there too, but that's another one where you're just laying the breadcrumbs and, doing interviews with AwardsWatch and that, I see what you're doing out there. But, I think that, those are really the ones. I mean, personally for me, and Dan, I don't know about you, but I would love to see Rachel McAdams get in this category.
I was going to ask you about her because she's done
really well so far.
Yeah, she's gotten both. She got LAFCA, and she also got New York.
I don't believe.
Randolph got New York. Right, it was Divine in New York. Yeah.
She got a Gotham. She got a Gotham nomination.
Yeah, I know she had something else recently.
She had a Gotham nomination recently, as well. And it was it's a really, I mean, again, somebody that's been nominated before, that performance, and for Spotlight that she's been nominated before, that performance is really the heart of that movie in a lot of ways.
It is, and I tell you, I was really worried that movie was dead.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, she's been getting a lot of critics nominations as well over the last couple weeks, and I know that the child actress that plays her daughter in the film is going to get a ton of nominations as well in the young actor category. Really, that movie is just such a great adaptation of that novel, but McAdams adds that element too that is so irresistible, and I love it. Dan, I think that's a performance that, like, please Academy, please give it the opportunity to for the voters to really like it, and for her to get out there. I mean, you mentioned Henson. I think that she's definitely in the running as well. Is it kind of anybody else you're thinking about at this point, Dan?
The other one that I don't know how people are ultimately going to react to the movie, but Penelope Cruz is given big Oscar bait energy in Ferrari. That is big scenery chewing. It reminded me in some ways of the energy of her supporting actress winning performance in Vicky Cristina Barcelona, the fiery passion that she has. Felt very much like that. I just don't know how people are going to respond to that movie overall. Reactions out of NIF were very divided, and I don't know, but she's really the only one that's I'm sort of considering in this category. I wish that I could consider Rosamund Pike more for Saltburn, because for me that's one of the most brilliant supporting performances of the year, but I don't think the Academy is going to be touching that one with a 1,000-foot pole. So
no. And the movie that also I think has done really poor so far and hasn't really hit anywhere unless the industry starts saying we like it more. And they've been doing a lot of screenings. Is Air and Viola Davis, a performance that I think is really good. And Viola's got scenes, and she's got a lot of moments, especially towards the end of that film. The phone call conversation is really all about her. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to show up somewhere, and you got to, you know, you can't just an honorary win at Gotham is all that film has so far. And that's, I mean, that's easier to get than you think it is, folks. You know what I mean? So, so I think, you know, and she's not doing any actors on actors. She's had the Hunger Games that she's had to promote as well too, and she hasn't really promoted the film. And
Like if I'm being honest, if she's going to get a supporting nomination this year, it should be for the Hunger Games instead of Air. But
I get that. But also too, she'll probably get nominated for SAG, and that's probably it. Also have to consider if they really do like Sandra Hüller. There's the double Sandra Hüller. You know, and Zone of Interest is big. She could be.
Love that.
That is a. I go back and forth sometimes. I think that might actually be even stronger work than Anatomy of a Fall, which I know is blasphemy to say, but it's also a really sinister and
great,
very Lady Macbeth-esque performance in that film, in the Zone of Interest.
Absolutely.
The other one that we haven't mentioned, and I really want to talk about it real quick, is someone that I do think that as the days go on and all these other contenders are sort of kind of fighting amongst themselves is America Ferrera for Barbie. And she's got the scene that is talked about, and photos have been taken from the screenplay books and put all over online, but she has been right there with Gerwig, with Margot Robbie, with Ryan Gosling at these Q&As already. She has been, whether it's with Gosling and just her, or whether it's just with Robbie, she has been everywhere already campaigning. She also has Dumb Money that she had come out this year as well. So she's got two strong performances to put out there. I think Barbie's the one that could really be the one for her. Again, though, you're talking about her pushing out somebody like, as of right now, in certain people's predictions, you're talking about her pushing out somebody like Julianne Moore and potentially, you know, Jodie Foster, Penelope Cruz. This is some heavy hitters that you would have to do, but that scene, which really that's her Oscar. It's one scene.
The monologue.
It's the monologue, and that's the monologue that is the turning point of the film. If you like Barbie, you're gonna probably most likely like that scene, and it's a big scene.
The question becomes, I think, are voters going to see that moment as a triumph of acting or as a triumph of writing?
No, I agree.
And right now, I think that love for that moment is going to translate into a screenplay nomination and probably win for Greta and Noah. I love America Ferrera. I have been a huge fan of hers ever since Real Women Have Curves, which was the first major thing she did. And I saw that and thought she was incredible and couldn't wait to see what she was going to do. And she has only gotten better with time. But I, like, when people talk about Barbie, I don't hear people talking about her performance. I hear them talking about that monologue, but it's always that monologue. It's not America Ferrera's monologue or, oh my God, America Ferrera. It's
the Barbie monologue.
That monologue. Yeah. And also, it's just like, I think it's very hard for anyone to be the standout performance of that movie when you have Ryan Gosling doing what he's doing. And she even less so, because that character is so almost ordinary, you know.
It's very like the character doesn't really jump out outside of that monologue, you know. And that's why, you know, and it's not, she's not bad in it. She's really good in the film.
No, she delivers that monologue perfectly.
Yeah.
The tone, the pitch she strikes, it's just the right amount of all the emotions that she's
Yeah.
putting into it. And it's
She's
very
like in
strong
a
work.
she's like in a 6 to 10 range for me right now. Like it's
I have her like outside my 10 right now,
I think yeah,
honestly.
I think but I also think too it just depends on if a nomination like that happens early, because you know how like the Oscars do it, they split it up twice. Like you see the first round, and usually it's supporting
Yeah.
performances are put in the first round of the nomination reveals.
Mhm.
If that's a performance that gets in Oscar morning, it's going to be a very, very, very good day for Barbie as well, because
Yeah,
and that's a big
absolutely.
sign, of things to come. Also, too, like time we're recording this again, we're recording this on Sunday. Do the Globes go for it? Now the Globes have 6 spots in all their categories. Do they go for it? Do they not? We'll remains to be seen. We'll talk about it next week when it comes to that. But you mentioned Gosling. Let's switch over to supporting actor. Let's talk about it. I feel like it's RRR, or maybe add the other R of Ryan
Oh
Gosling, Robert De
God.
Niro, Robert Downey Jr., and Mark Ruffalo. So it feels like those are most likely are 4 of our spots, right?
Yeah.
Based off the love and the admiration for everything. So it feels like we're fighting
Yeah.
for a spot.
And
Dan,
it's
I'm
the
just,
two young guns fighting for it. It's Charles Melton and Dominic Sessa.
and I think you can't count out Defoe either. Like Defoe's right
No,
there,
yeah. The
and
it's possible that both Poor Things and Oppenheimer double in this
yeah,
category. Like that is a possibility that
Damon's
I have
sitting
been
right there.
preparing myself for. And I saw the movie again last weekend, Oppenheimer, for like, months removed from the last viewing.
Yeah.
And like the audience loved him. And that was a guild screening.
Oh, Matt Damon or Downey?
Damon,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, they love Downey too. I mean, how could you not love Downey in this movie? But like, they responded very, very positively and loudly to Matt Damon.
Well, then you also have, if the love is continuing, a movie that's been absolutely loved is American Fiction, and you have Sterling K. Brown, which is
Not going to happen. I keep seeing
I'm
people
telling you,
pushing this narrative. If he could not get nominated for the strength of his performance in Waves, which did not get universal raves, but he got universal raves for his performance in it, then it's not going to happen for this movie, because he's not
I
the
agree.
best performance or the buzziest performance in this movie. I don't know where people keep getting that from.
I think it's because one, he's done really well in the Q&As. Very well liked as an actor.
Yes,
That
yes.
movie is extremely
It is
popular,
rising. Yes.
and it is taking steam, and there is a spot open, and you look at it, okay, if the double noms don't happen for Poor Things and Oppenheimer, if Dominic Sessa is one of those, thank you, kid, we'll catch you on the next thing kind of thing that we've seen happen to young actors many, many times before. I mean, look at Shailene Woodley's performance in The Descendants. That was another one that were like, thanks, but no thanks. It's happened with an Alexander Payne film before. In Charles Melton, if the Academy does not respond, and that is not a Best Picture play, or not as strong as one would think, even though he's been the dominant force for the most part during this first wave of critics wins and winning Gotham and New York, and getting nominated for Indie Spirit, which Indie Spirits happened this past week, and we haven't even talked about that, which is nuts. A lot happened. National Board Review, tons of other stuff happened as well. And that was the other thing. National Board Review gave it to Giamatti, gave it to Randolph. Sessa was not a part of that. Then it leaves a spot vulnerable. Does it go to someone like Sterling K. Brown in a movie that needs probably more nominations to justify if you think it's going to win Best Picture? Does it go to Coleman Domingo for a double nom, or maybe his only nom, because he might get pushed out of actor because actors it's like 6, 7 film. I mean, I'm just saying,
people need to stop putting that out into the world.
You put it out in the world, but it's also the reality of he's in a film in Rustin that is the weakest of a lot of those films there of the 6.
Only in terms of its Best Picture strand.
And that's pretty big. And then you see The Color Purple, and he's part of this ensemble, and he gives a pretty good performance in it.
He does
It's
indeed.
something, it's one that you could see him getting in here, and rather than in lead, and he still gets a nomination. It's great. So there's a lot of possibilities still left.
There's still, if Past Lives end up being a top 5 Best Picture play, which it could with director and screenplay, John Magaro is right there.
I mean,
if you love that movie, I mean,
but he couldn't even get in at Indie Spirits though.
Yeah, but I'm just, I'm just tough. Saying.
No, I know, I agree.
It's a tough category. I'm just throwing out the opportunities. There's also, like, it's very, very low buzz right now because of the distributor and the time, but everyone who I know who has seen Memory has had incredible things to say about Peter Sarsgaard, and he's another one who's just like been around for years and working with everybody. And
the buzzier film for the small one would be something like Glenn Howerton for Blackberry. But
my God, I would love that.
But I don't see that happening within a million years. You know what I mean? I think that's I think IFC is just wasting their craft money and on their 4th season or whatever indie comedy that they have to push them out there at these things. But also the sad reality of, so far at least, unless the Globes or BAFTA or somebody starts picking this movie back up, is the sad reality of all the strangers starting, not really picking up as much. Like, it had a screenplay win today at LAFCA.
Yep.
But it's not getting, and it had a runner-up for
Andrew
actor.
Scott was a runner-up. Yeah.
But for best actor, but yeah, not like a not totally. It did good at Indie Spirit, but it didn't do like,
but that was one that I always thought would be more of a like
Indie Spirit play,
Spirit critics play. I always worried about that one in terms of the larger. The larger picture,
audience. There's still plenty of time, but
small movie is just the thing.
Yeah, but it's run by Searchlight. But the problem is Searchlight has a bigger priority, which is Poor Things, and it has a movie that's buzzier and a movie also that has, 2 actors that are well-respected veterans that have been nominated multiple times. Like, it's, doesn't diminish the fact that Jamie Bell and Paul Mescal give extremely incredible performances.
All of them. We didn't even talk about Claire Foy in supporting actress, and she would.
That's probably the best performance of her career.
Yeah. If I was giving out awards, she'd be in my 5. Yeah.
So, Dan, I guess, where are you leaning with that 5th spot right now?
Currently, I have Melton.
Yeah. I do too.
Just because of momentum, really, right now. I'll be really interested to see what.
He's kind of the newcomer of the category as well too, and
absolutely. I mean,
a very complex role.
Oh, insanely complex. And I remember like seeing that movie at NIF and having heard, all the buzz from Cannes was all him.
Yeah,
basically.
And it's kind of like, what do you got then for me, kid?
Yeah, and so I was there, and I remember seeing it and going like, if he just had one more scene, he'd be a surefire nominee.
Yeah,
like locked and loaded.
Might even be a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just is. I just remember watching it and going like, I think he needed like just another punch to like to really not lock it down.
Yeah,
but he's been doing really well so far.
I gotta tell you, I watched the film again recently, and I really watched it just through his perspective. More on that on the website later this week, and for an upcoming article. And I gotta tell you, the whole movie, I know that they've been pushing it as this, but the whole movie through his perspective, if you just watch it, you got a million questions going on in your brain. Just about him in general, the decisions he's making. It's an immaculate performance. This is probably one of the best. It's probably like top 5 of really all performances that I've seen this year. And I think that movie really, really is a delicate tightrope, and it all hinges upon his performance. And if you do not like that performance, or you do not really connect with that performance, then you probably won't connect with the film, because so much of really the second half of that movie is about his emotional journey of that he's going through. I mean, I will say one thing to update this category, because I've been talking about that I think that Downey, as of right now, or, I've been saying a lot that Downey is the front runner or the one to look out for once we hit the industry.
He is, yeah.
I really still believe that, but I think it's such a coin flip right now between him and Ryan Gosling. And I really think that if those are our two candidates to win Best Supporting Actor, I would be elated, because those are two performances.
God, yes.
I mean, that we shouldn't even be lucky to have one of them, let alone having both of those performances. And seeing them both on the campaign already and talking, and they're both going to get prizes at I think at Santa Barbara. They're incredible actors, and it's going to be a very tight race. I don't think that we're going to see. I mean, I could see Downey sweep a lot, but like right now, I'm leaning towards Gosling, just because I think that Oppenheimer will do so well in other places, and I do think that there is an itch to reward Barbie. And weirdly enough, the best thing about Barbie is Ken. I hate to say that, because it's really it's really the screenplay, which is a miracle. But yeah, the performances, it's Gosling's just it's aged so well on each rewatch, and
he just gets better. The movie does too. I find it just with each watch it just gets better and holds up better.
They both have scenes.
The thing is that like we always just the Oscars do not respect comedy.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
As much as they should, and I would love it so much if he won.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Honestly, I'd even be good with Ruffalo winning, because that performance is just so funny.
I gotta tell you,
in a way that was just like, I know that you said like the unexpected quality sort of falls off on repeated viewings, but at least on that first viewing, like you've never seen him give a performance like this.
It's completely 100% like just committed the whole way.
And the performance itself, while it may lose some of the unexpected factor, it's still just as funny.
Yeah.
On repeat watch, at least it was for me.
I got to tell you this: if we're in a race between Gosling, Downey, Ruffalo, De Niro, who I think is fantastic, and incredible work in Killers of the Flower Moon,
he's just chilling.
And Charles Melton, if that's our five,
that's an all-timer.
That's an all-timer right there. That's one where I'd give it to any of them. Honestly, I'm dead serious. And right now I have Gosling edged out, like it's a 51-49 vote between him and Downey. I switched it. It's very close, but I got Downey right now. I mean, I'm sorry, Gosling. See, it's flipping right even within the seconds.
Even as we speak. I have Downey. I think that he's too much of a veteran at this point. And
you think he's our sweep? If we have a sweep this year, he's the sweep?
I think it's potential. I think it's big potential. Yeah. I
sweep. I mean, televised events, not by the critics.
Yeah, I was going to say though, like honestly, I could see this year becoming another 2019 where all four of them swept all season.
Oh, really? Okay.
I kind of could.
We haven't seen that in a while.
No, we haven't. And I generally speaking hate when that happens.
I hate it too. It's not fun.
It's just, even if, one or more of the performances is your pick, it just gets boring to watch the same people win all the time.
Say the same speech.
Yeah, and there's a feeling that, like, especially since there's so much wonderful work that
Hmm.
has happened this year, you want to see the love be spread a little more. But I think when you get to the industry awards and you look closely at these categories, and like right now the performances that I have winning, they feel like they could very easily be um sweepers.
Yeah.
Or the reason that I have them winning would be a good reason for them sweeping the season.
Yeah. Let's move over to actor.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to say something.
Say it.
And Sophia Simonello, who's not feeling well right now, is going to listen to the show and she's going to text me and she's going to go, "You can't do this to me." But I'm going to say it.
Uh-huh.
Are we living in the world where Bradley Charles Cooper is getting closer and closer to having this first Oscar in his hand come March? Are you pretty confident, Dan, that Cooper finally wins his Oscar this year? How confident are you? Because I'm pretty confident.
I'm
Once we get to the television awards, I
I
feel
am
like we're going to be there.
I am relatively confident.
Yeah.
I need
Here
to
comes
see
the
him
text right now. I
I need to
guarantee it.
see him do a better job on the campaign trail than
Yeah.
he's been doing recently, because like
I don't know if that
that
shade was
performance
correct, or,
that performance is the most baity thing.
yeah, it really is.
And
It's great though.
honestly, it's great work. It is the most loose and natural I have felt from him on screen in years,
Yeah.
maybe ever. Um, and he's spectacular in it. The fact that he directed the movie, I think, helps, because it's impressive that he does such an incredible job at both of those things at the same time. Like, it just, like,
The fact that he
whether,
even did it, it's like you
yeah,
get that performance and you directed this thing.
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Um, but he needs to watch his watch his mouth.
He's got to be careful.
He's got to be careful. He
You don't want
needs
to get
not
front runner status. You don't want to get front runner
he needs
cockiness.
to not put that kind of pick me energy, out there. It doesn't suit him, I'll say.
I get you there.
Um,
I mean,
but that said, like, I'm sort of at the point right now, like, where if not him, then who? And like, yeah, probably Killian, but he also seems like kind of like uh reticent to play
he's
the press tour.
it's not that. I think that he's very much, because when I talk to him, he's very much, I don't want to talk about me. It's very unlike Cooper almost. It's the
Right,
anti-Cooper. Like,
yeah.
Cooper is like, well, of course Cooper has to talk about himself. He fucking did everything for this goddamn movie. You know what I mean? As opposed to being like, I wouldn't probably be here if it wasn't for Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
and all these amazing actors. And he's not one to brag. He's one to
Yeah,
pass those compliments on to everyone else around him, rather than take in that and say that, yes, I knocked this out of the park, or this is what I did. And he rather just receive the flowers and take them very nicely, out of the room, and put them in a vase and eat some cheese and just like go and just do the work. He's very workman.
Yeah.
He's very humble. Humble is the right word for him, I think.
Yeah, and that
I could play well.
kind of personality can play well, but it can also work against you, because people want to hear that you're proud of your work, and they want to hear all the details of how you did what you did, and that's how it gets people excited to vote for you. The one that I see, the other one that I can see really winning is Paul Giamatti for the holdovers, especially after seeing it for a second time today at a guild screening, and seeing how people reacted to not just his performance, but to him in person afterwards at a Q&A. I I put him back in my predicted 5.
Who'd you kick out?
I had him out. I kicked out Jeffrey Wright
Wow.
for American Fiction.
Wow.
Because the reason I had him out was because we've been in this situation before.
Well, that's the thing.
We're Best Picture frontrunner. That's probably like Best Picture and a screenplay frontrunner, and he is also probably the frontrunner for actor, and he just gets snubbed.
Well, and that's the other. That's the thing too. It's like we're dealing with 6 spots here, right? Yeah. And then the other 3 that we haven't, or the other 2 that we haven't talked about is obviously Leonardo DiCaprio, who's totally in, and anyone that doesn't have him in your 5, regardless of what you think of the performance, he's in. Like, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. He was going to be in last year. He's going to be in this year. Like, if the movie came out last year, sorry, Paul Mescal. Sorry, Bill Nye. You probably were going to lose that spot to Leonardo DiCaprio. It's just,
if he is in a drama, he's getting nominated.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Sorry.
It's how it's working right now. If it's a serious film, he's getting into it. And then there's Coleman Domingo, who's in Rustin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who's had a hell of a campaign. They've had great events. They've got Higher Ground, which is the Obama's production company, running alongside them. He's got The Color Purple. Lenny Kravitz is singing songs. You got a real solid campaign to try to get. Because I'm telling you, if Lenny Kravitz can get in, that's a very helpful second nom, because that movie doesn't have a lot of other places. The reason why I have him at 6, and I have it as Wright, Giamatti, DiCaprio, Murphy, and Cooper. One, that's a good mixture of people that haven't gotten in versus people that got in. The other thing is, and I'm sad to say this to Coleman Domingo, but those all other films are more likely potentially best picture nominees.
Oh, absolutely. And
my
feelings,
yeah,
and like my feelings about the film's quality and people's derisiveness towards it aside, that is absolutely true. It is the weakest that film is the weakest as an overall player and on the best picture front.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. However, speak to anyone who has seen that movie.
I know.
The first words out of their
Coleman
mouth
Domingo's
are
performance.
Domingo.
Yeah, I know, but that's just the thing, though. It's like, if you have American Fiction, which is surging, and Oppenheimer and Killers are big, it's and Maestro is going to be a big player.
And I'll explain to you, like, I have Jeffrey Wright out, like, as my odd man out.
He's the odd man out for you. Yeah,
he's the 6. He's my 6 right now. Yeah. And the reason that I have him out and Coleman Domingo in is that it is very hard to get a nomination for a comedy when you're the straight man.
Yeah.
And he is, for the most part, the straight man in this movie.
Well,
all the others are like, he has a few moments when he's, adopting the
he has to talk to the agent persona, or he's talking.
When he's talking to them on the phone. But even then, he's like, they're the ones who are, the joke is about the other characters. And
it's about their reaction.
And how they're reacting to him. And so it's the thing that gives me the most pause with that performance. And I think that, yes, the film is stronger overall, but again, like, and this is just, like, the people that I've spoken to at events when I ask them about this movie, they all mention the screenplay. That's the first thing they mention, is the screenplay and how smart it is and how funny it is. And when I ask them about Jeffrey Wright, he was good. He was very good.
See, for me,
you have to be people's number 1 vote in order to get a nomination. And
it's a little bit different for me.
Domingo is going to get number 1 votes.
I think for me, knowing that Netflix has been able to juggle multiple campaigns before, but I know that they will kick in absolute high gear. But now Netflix is kind of different than what it used to be, because they're really trying to hyper focusing on on certain things in certain spots, but Maestro is their overall big player, and they have a potential winner there. So I do not think that they would try. I think that they're going to solely start focusing a lot of their efforts on Bradley Cooper there. And I think a little bit of that will be at the benefit of, or, at the loss, not the benefit, but at the loss of somebody like Coleman Domingo. And I think also,
but
too,
does he need the help from Netflix when he has Higher Ground behind him?
I mean, that's fair, but also Higher Ground produced Leave the World Behind. So it's not like they're like the cleanest of people in the world. Okay. Let's just be real about it.
I'm just saying they're not Oscar campaigning for Leave the World Behind.
I mean, they're giving notes. But and Sam Esmail said, "No, thank you. I will not listen to him. I'll make a bad movie." But I think that at least for the people that I've talked to that watched American Fiction, that audience award winner that's been across the board, the face of that film in Q&As maybe has been Cord Jefferson, but the person that they see on screen that is the face and really in pretty much every scene of that movie is Jeffrey Wright. And I just have a hard time as another actor who also, by the way, was in Rustin
and is great
and is
Rustin.
Absolutely great. Will be another
so
reminder
fantastically hateful. I love him so much.
And will be a reminder also of like, damn, Jeffrey Wright's really good in this. You know what else he's really good in? American Fiction. You know what I mean? And there's a world, but I will tell you this. There is a world where both of them get in.
Yeah.
And then Paul Giamatti is, again, sacrifice of the altar, or in a great world, in the right world, DiCaprio is the one that's on the outside looking in, which I don't buy. I have to believe it to see it. Would I be happy? Absolutely. But then you're talking about Cooper being the only one that is a former nominee getting in there, which is very rare when you have a lot of multiple nominees. Like last year is kind of an anomaly because you didn't, Tom Cruise, but it's like nobody was really taking that seriously. Nobody ever took the bait to nominate that performance anywhere on the televised events. Nobody really was like, we're going to get Tom Cruise, in the best actor at the Oscars. That was just for like ding dongs who couldn't get the Top Gun predictions out of their heads. Cooper and DiCaprio, though, they're kind of classic standard, one's been nominated in this category.
These are Academy-friendly
winner,
actors and performances.
Yeah. And Murphy's an undeniable performance and an undeniable frontrunner. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, obviously, there's Andrew Scott and there's Zac Efron and Christian Friedel, and those are great performances. But I don't know if those. I
wonder if Zac Efron could make a late push, honestly, because he's getting nominated for the Globes. He's absolutely getting nominated at the Globes.
Timestamp this at the time of recording, and it could totally be different.
The time is 10 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, December 10th.
Less than 12 hours from now, we'll find out if Dan's absolutely wrong or if everyone's going, Dan, that did not age well. Or Dan, it aged perfectly.
It's the most Globes thing in the world, but the Globes are a different organization now.
But also, they're still a television show.
They're still a television show, but the old body is only a third of the total membership. So
true, but you don't think those new people want to meet Zac Efron?
I mean, I would hope they do.
They don't have to worry about Jeremy Allen White. They're going to nominate him for the Bears. So
exactly. He's going to be there already. Yeah.
It's no problem at all.
If they want to get Harris Dickinson in there too, that'd be nice.
I'd like to. Okay, never mind.
I know what you were going to say. And yes.
No, I think that it's because Scott hasn't gotten a lot of. I mean, he got the Gotham nomination, he got the Indie Spirit, but there doesn't seem to be the push for that film overall, and which will be is a real damn shame because it's such a beautiful performance. I really think it's fallen down.
So good.
I think it's fallen down to those 6, and we'll We'll have some. I don't think Globes will have any clarity whatsoever for this because I expect all 6 of these guys to be nominated for Golden Globes. If one of them's not, it would be a really, really interesting thing to see who's not nominated. But I expect all 6 to be there. It's really going to start being once we get to SAG and once we get to BAFTA. That's really where we're going to see, and maybe even Critics' Choice to a certain extent. Of course, this could also be the 6 that's at Critics' Choice because they, I believe, have 6 in their category as well. So, a lot remains to be seen. It's a very tight race for 5 spots. I think somebody told me, or somebody was saying to me, like last week, Ryan, would you want 6 spots? No, 5 spots is great because then otherwise Dan and I have nothing to talk about on a show like this. You talked about sweepers. Actress. Kind of so far we've had one.
Yeah. A little bit.
A little bit in Lily Gladstone.
A little bit.
For Killers of the Flower Moon. But right behind her, winning at LAFCA today, was not just Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, but was Emma Stone for Poor Things. But National Board of Review went for Lily Gladstone this past week.
NYFCC
went for
Lily.
She's had
went for Lily in a different movie, but
yes,
let's be honest.
And
while she did not win at LAFCA, she still got a mention, even if it wasn't supporting. So,
so she was still hanging around.
Yep.
And she's been. She won Atlanta, and she's been nominated. I think she won DC too, and or Washington, and she's winning a lot.
Over the past month, she has become the face of that movie,
as she should be.
Than Marty.
Yeah, as she kind of should be, and kind of we thought she would be.
Yeah. It is just sad that there is not more of her in the movie.
Yes.
To the point that LAFCA decided to make a statement and say she's supporting.
Which, by the way,
is a boneheaded move, but whatever.
Boneheaded move, and I think she is a lead, just because. I think you see, like Dan, you saw it. You see a number, but like the number does not justify when in the film and how it's used, and it's. I get it.
I have thoughts about the movie and how it's structured, and what that means for the performances, but for my money, if they decided to have campaigned her lead, I think that is a justifiable decision, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't mind it either.
You know, so, and I think it is. I mean, it's those 3 and Emma Stone. Like those are the people who have a chance at winning.
Oh, so you say it's Lily?
Lily, Sandra. Oh, sorry, we haven't mentioned her yet. And Carey Mulligan. That was the one that. It's those 3 and Carey Mulligan who have a chance of winning.
I'm gonna say it one more. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna say it. I don't want to say it, but you mentioned her earlier. Can't count on Annette Bening.
For the win?
Yeah. We have seen these kind of career culmination. She could win. That film could end up sneaking into makeup. That could be the makeup winner. Maybe not Maestro. And also too, like, listen, I've had my heart broken many times before in this category. CC me on an email from last year. Okay. I don't trust this category for my life. And I know how, no water pun intended, thirsty also Annette Bening is to win an Oscar. I don't believe she'll win, but I don't think you can count around for the win. I don't think you can count around for it. Much just like,
buzz on that movie is non-existent.
I think that if Jodie's getting in, I think she's getting in, and you can't. And I think Netflix doesn't really.
I'm not there yet.
I think that as much as I think Carrie is also a winner too. Like, that's the thing. Lily's a winner to me. Emma's a winner to me. Bening could regrettably be a winner to me. Like, I don't want Annette Bening in this category. Let's just put it out there. If she's in the 5, I would be like, oh, great. You know what I mean? Like, because you look at the below the 5, right, that we've mentioned: Bening, Stone, Gladstone, Mulligan, Huller, Margot Robbie. It'd be hard pressed for me to believe that you make a movie called Barbie and it's getting nominated across the board, and Barbie doesn't get nominated. The actress and the producer that played Barbie doesn't get nominated. Okay, there's that. Fantasia, which is a performance that people have been knocked out by at these screenings.
They have.
Natalie Portman, who gives another titanic performance in May, December.
An incredible monologue to end the movie, basically. Like, come on.
And then you also have like somebody like who's a Volpe Cup winner, Kaylee Spaney. Then you have a really great performance from Aunjanue Ellis Taylor in Origin, who she has been on the campaign trail with Ava and Niecy Nash and talking about the film and everything already. Like, and then of course, you know, there's a small performance like Tiana Taylor in 1001 that everybody seems to be pushing. Well,
please get her in, please.
All I'm saying is this is a stacked category.
This is stacked, and
so therefore,
mentioned one of my favorite performances of the year in a Best Picture nominee, Greta Lee. I
was going to say Greta Lee. Yes, Past Lives.
That's another one where, like, if you love that movie,
you love it.
How can you not vote for her?
I think if you love Celine's song, and her journey, how do you not also love Greta Lee, who's playing?
She's right there.
Celine's song.
It's literally. She is in she's in every scene of that movie except one.
Yeah.
And that's very pointedly that she's not in that one.
And what's the scene about?
Like,
what's the scene about?
Exactly,
it's about her. You know? But I mean, this actress has failed me so many times. This category of actress has failed me so many times. Annette Bening sitting right there for it to just break my heart. Of all those performances that are either good to like great, you know what I mean? Maybe one that I'm not like the biggest fan of, but still like overall, you know, I just wish that there was more of it. But other than that, but right now I do have Lily at number 1, and I have Emma right behind her. I think that those two performances they're almost like the exact opposite of one another, but they also just feel like winners. Mulligan's performance too. Like, I don't know how you watch Maestro and are not like destroyed by what she's doing there. What she's doing there with her accent and her command and everything. It's like it's
again like it's
unlike anything she's done.
It's the baitiest performance of this bunch. She has the physical transformation. She has the voice work.
She has
that she dies. I mean, she
has the scenes.
Everything. She has the
It's a full body performance. Yeah.
It is. She has everything, and she's playing the kind of character that they go for again and again in this category, the supportive wife.
Yes.
And they love themselves a supporting wife, and especially in this category and supporting actress, but like even in this one, I currently have Lily because of momentum seems to be shifting her way. But this is another one where I feel like, you know, once we get to the televised awards, it would not surprise me at all if they decide to do his and her awards for Maestro and give it to Bradley and Carrie. They'd be totally justified in doing so. They're both in baity as fuck parts that they both nail. We haven't had a real opportunity to give his and hers awards in.
It's been a long time.
Some time in lead. You know,
it's been since as good as it gets.
Yeah.
It's the last time we've had that.
Like, they did his and hers for 3 billboards, but that's, you know, lead and supporting. We're
talking about leads.
Not the same. Yeah.
No. I mean, I think also the other thing about Gladstone and Mulligan and Bening and Huller, they're going to be fighting for the same award. I think for something like Globe, I think Stone's going to win that.
For comedy, yeah, no
yeah,
question.
it'll be Emma, and so she's a former winner as well. They do like to award people that they've already awarded before.
They do, but they usually
also
like to make them wait a little longer than this for it.
I mean, Frances wasn't that long.
Well, Frances is Frances.
No, but if you give a different performance, I think also too than the one you've given before, then they're totally willing to do that, and she totally does in this film. And the thing about it is it's also the way in which Olivia Colman stayed in the conversation for The Favorite. She was there at every ceremony, giving a speech, being able to talk about the film one way or another. BAFTA could play very well for Poor Things because you know, Killers of the Flower Moon and even Oppenheimer to a certain extent, even though that's made by a Brit, those are movies that are American films. You know what I mean? Even Barbie. So like Poor Things could play very well at BAFTA. That's like a home base for it.
Absolutely.
As well as even, you know, something like Maestro. That's again, even though it's a British actress, that is an American conductor. You know, they make a point of saying that every 5 seconds of the movie. And I love the movie to death. But they do. That's a big point of emphasis on Lenny's life, is that he's the first born American conductor. So Stone could win there at BAFTA. SAG could definitely go many different directions. Like SAG, I think, will be the place. It has been. But really this year,
that's going to be the one to tell us who's going to win.
I think that'll be it. And I think that's where Lily Gladstone, as of right now, I feel Lily Gladstone will win SAG. Stone will win BAFTA, and I feel like we'll go into the night. I don't think that there's going to be a clear runner unless she gives a knockout performance. I mean a knockout speech, and they really love the performance. And yes, this is the best. And I do think that this is the best way to reward Killers of the Flower Moon, is to reward her for this great Titanic performance inside this movie. And I think that that's what the Academy will do. And I think that there's a lot of other ways that they can reward Poor Things and Oppenheimer and Barbie, and there's other places for it to win. But Lily feels like the performance or the thing for Killers to win. Otherwise, it's going Irishman, which would be a real shame because
I don't know. I know that it's
maybe Jack Fisk. I don't know.
It's a super duper stacked category, but I feel like they could still. I think that once the nominations happen, they could make a late play for adapted screenplay.
Yeah,
try to get Marty his second Oscar. It's a very sneaky way to do it. I also think
that's a tight race, though.
It's a very, very tight race, though. Especially if and when AMPIS decides, screw you, Barbie is adapted.
That's
their previous decisions have.
Well, I was thinking also too, and director. I mean that's it feels like it's probably that's the best way to also reward Nolan.
Yeah,
so
we'll
see.
But I think the other place where Killers could sneak into a win is Rodrigo Prieto for cinematography.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and then there's I think a really three-headed race between Killers.
Oh yeah, and
Poor Things,
production
and
design,
Barbie for production, and Oppenheimer.
That production design is going to keep me up nights this year.
Yeah. Honestly, I would love a Zone of Interest nomination for production design. That movie would be talk about bone-chilling production design.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, a little bit about Sandra Hüller, because I wonder about the response because from AMPIS, because of the fact that movie is not going to be an international, and it would have to do it would have to kind of do what's the kind of comp for it? It would have to do
it would have to do a Cold War. No, it'd have to be better than
It's not worst person in the world. No, because that.
No, it's not everything.
No.
Because even I was going to say like it would have to do like Cold War, but Cold War was Poland's submission that year. It would have to do better than 2 Days, One Night, but 2 Days, One Night was actually Belgium's submission that year, I think.
So it would be real unprecedented almost at this point.
It would, because that movie, it just didn't go its way in terms of getting selected by France. I still think I
had to do better than Parallel Mothers.
Yeah, it worries me. Yeah, I mean that is what it'd have to do. It'd be Parallel Mothers. That's the that's the comparison.
But that's Almodovar and Krebs.
Exactly, and he has, he's an Academy Award winner.
He's got a wing in the museum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has worried me for Sandra Hüller's chances that Lily Gladstone has been doing so well with critics' prizes
because she needs to win those.
Really needed to win those to solidify her place in this conversation. I think that ultimately she will get in because it's just the best. It is one of the best performances of the year, and I think there's no two ways around it. And I don't think anyone can come away from that movie not being wowed by her. But I do worry because she's the one. Of these five, she is the one that needs the critics boost the most, just for a nomination.
Yeah, I mean, and you have somebody like Robbie and Barrino, who's right there, like Fantasia's right there,
and Benning too.
Yeah, I mean,
potentially, yeah. And the Volpe Cup winner, Kelly Spaney, like that's
not a joke. Before, that's it's right there.
No, like that's how Emma Stone's awards run started, was with the Volpe Cup. That's how Olivia Colman started too, wasn't it? I mean,
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, and then you can't. I mean, you're talking about it, Dan. Like, there's a lot of love for past lives, and it could show or not. And Portman's delivering a really great performance in May December. That's kind of undeniable. And if you see that movie, she's a producer on the film as well. And Todd Haynes has never had a problem getting women and lead women into those categories. I mean, like, he's kind of notorious for. I'll get y'all in.
He had a problem before Far From Heaven, but since then,
But like, it's mostly like, y'all get nominated. I don't get nominated, but you'll get nominated, which is ridiculous. But no, I mean, like that could, what I've been thinking about it a lot is May December could easily be like The Master, where it gets those three performances in and nothing else. Like, it doesn't get the screenplay in after all. It just does get those three performances in, and that's it. And we're kind of like, wait, why didn't it get more down the road?
Yeah, I mean, it could also. That's a movie that, like, I could see it getting like 5 or 6 nominations and and I could also see it pulling a goose egg and getting nothing.
Or just getting one.
Yeah, or just one. Yeah, anywhere between 0 and 5 nominations, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's not like, weirdly, it's not like Tar last year.
No,
where we just kind of, or like, well, that's already getting a lot of really respected technical love, and there's an undeniable performance behind it. It's more of an ensemble piece, and it's got those 3 performances, and it doesn't mean that the film's not on the level that it's an impeccable film, but like, we could see the writing of that film, and I think that that's where, like, something like Zone of Interest, it really could do well. And that's where, like, if the Academy is like, well, I don't have a lot of room for Hüller in actress, but I have room for her in supporting for Zone, like,
maybe,
that's something to consider. I mean, Barrino's been at these Q&As, and it's been, making everybody cry and getting and carries that film for everyone. And then, Margot Robbie just kind of, she made, she helped make this $1 billion behemoth.
Made the biggest movie of the year.
She only worked with Greta Gerwig to make this like behemoth part of this phenomenon. It would feel weird.
Wild to me that her performance is like the least discussed in that movie, and she's got the scenes. Lead, and she's so good. Like the whole finale. Come on, it doesn't work without her.
I mean, like right before she right before the monologue is her big emotional scene that
And
she's
that is so
incredible.
good.
Yeah.
Truly a masterclass in playing both emotional and it's incredibly funny at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
Her work is in that movie is incredible.
Yeah. I think it's great. It would feel weird also too to like the two faces of those movies of Oppenheimer and Barbie are Cillian Murphy and Margaret Robbie's performances. They're the leads of those films. It would feel weird for Murphy to get in and part of and all those other nominations that'll come a part of it. And then and along with director and screenplay, and Barbie's going to probably get all those too. It would feel weird for Margot Robbie not to be in it, and also in what I would say is her best performance to date. She's fantastic in Barbie.
Yeah,
it's my favorite that she's ever been. So
I may have to agree with you on that actually.
Yeah, it's actually a lot more layered of a performance than people give it credit for.
Oh, so much more. Yes,
and I love it. Yeah,
and it's just would be like really, really weird given what Barbie is about if Ryan Gosling gets nominated and she doesn't.
Well, that's the thing. It would be like, who said patriarchy is not real? You know what I mean?
I would also love to say that I'm sorry, but Greta Gerwig, it's your fault for writing such a incredibly insane part for Ken that Ryan Gosling just made even more crazy. Ugh.
I mean, personally, for me, if there was a supporting actor other than Ryan Gosling to get in from that movie, I would love to see Kingsley Ben-Adir get nominated because
he is so good.
Every little thing that he does in that movie is perfection.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest things. Just watch him behind, in every scene, he's doing something there, and it's just
great.
Change your life.
All the background work that he does in that movie,
so good.
It's so funny. I died every time.
It's so great. Him and Michael Cera.
Michael Cera, yeah. I was going to say,
the stealth MVPs of that movie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the acting categories. We'll talk about them more, I believe, next week because we'll have Globes and a bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. Dan, thank you so much for going on this journey with me, my friend. Can you, before you go back to Barbie Land, tell everybody where they can find you and all of your work on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DanceandDan on film. You can find me on Letterboxd and post at DanceandDan.
You and I are going to use that tandem bike and the surfing and everything from, how you get from the real world.
Yeah, from Barbie Land to the real world. Yeah.
I like the camping part. That looks really fun.
The camper van. Yeah.
Camper van. That looks like a lot of fun.
They're not actually driving in the camper van.
Yeah, they're just
camping around.
They're just camp. It's like a break, It's so good.
So great.
So good. All right. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at AwardsWatch.com. If you like podcasts, you can go listen to Director Watch, where myself and Jay Ledbetter are covering the films of Paul Thomas Anderson. This week's episode, we'll be talking about The Master with our own editor-in-chief, Eric Anderson. And it was a really great conversation. I highly encourage you all to go listen to that, plus the previous episodes of Director Watch. And while you're doing that, listening to this show and that show, give us 5 stars on Spotify and or on Apple. We really greatly appreciate it. Newsletter, go sign up for that at awardswatch.com. Eric would really appreciate that. He puts a lot of hard work and effort into that. And just read all of the great stuff that's been going on the website. Got a lot of great interviews, including this past week. We had interviews with Willem Dafoe, with Jeffrey Wright, but we also talking about Best Actress and talking about potential frontrunner. Sophia Simonello, she talked to the great Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. It was a wonderful conversation. Please go read that over on the website. Again, that's at awardswatch.com. Next week, we'll be back. We might be talking about a little chocolate man called Wonka. But before we do that, we'll be talking about the Golden Globe nominations, which should be really, really fun. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.